wanted the light on. Perhaps it could be an advantage for me. Now it's off. Good morning, my name is Gastón Milano. I'm a member of the development team of Artege. Last year, I talked about the era of smart devices and about the revolution. And I fully agree with what Gustavo said, in the sense that in the community there is a great strength. To some extent, at present in the world we are a rather unique entity. And this reminded me that in Artege we are always wondering how strong we are in the face of these revolutions, because they present an opportunity. And this reminded me of the Spider-Man, a very well-known sentence said by the Uncle Ben to Spider-Man: Parker, every power implies a huge responsibility. And I think that we as a community have a huge responsibility in order to turn this revolution into a great opportunity for all of us, and to take advantage of this power. Our advantage is that we are on the side of a different development, and in this sense we are to some extent unique. We perform a model-driven actions, and on that basis we generate our applications and take our ideas in a very simple manner to reality. And at present we have the capability of do it quite simple with mobile applications, as Gustavo showed to you. There are many students who have developed their ideas in this way. And one of the first things we should do is to become acquainted with the model behind this development, in order to become acquainted with the applications. There is no magic here in order to develop our ideas. For that purpose, what we did in GeneXus was to develop a conceptual model that basically is a way of thinking, that is, the position of a human being when he faces a concrete problem. That is, a series of abstractions that lead to concrete actions, eliminated irrelevant issues, and establishing a conceptual model. So, the core of this presentation is basically to determine which are the conceptual, the essential concepts that we must know in order to develop these applications. How do we do that, or how have we created through the years the GeneXus model, and in this case the model of the application for smart devices? Usually we are based on concrete things, on concrete goals, and from that basis we create abstractions. We study actual examples, and on that basis we generate abstractions. With the revolution of smart devices, there are many examples of things that we intended to do last year when we announced this new generator. This new engine, when these concrete things are, when I create an application, I want to have a series of characteristics and functions, that it should have a certain degree of security in the server data, in the customer data as well, in communication. I wish to have an excellent user experience. I think this has been a lesson from the consumer applications. And also, as Gustavo mentioned before, I think that running this, to run the device that my clients use, I'm not going to impose a certain device in general. I'm not going to talk about the security component in the modeling. Eugenio Garcia will explain it tomorrow. But basically, the model for that purpose is we intend to have security, authentication with Twitter, Facebook, set authorizations as properties, and on that basis automatically will create the required security points in the application. We'll see to some extent how we have developed in order to find the functionality we require for a mobile application. When we start exploring the existing applications, these applications did not include GeneXus at that time, but we start exploring N applications, and the first thing we detected is that to some extent we went back to Windows. We have one single point of entry to the applications, which is different from web applications. As we see, there are different ways of entry, and whenever I enter an application, I always find the most relevant points that I want to establish in my function. Here is a list, here is tabs, because my users are iPhone users, or as a table, in this case, is the Facebook application that is well known already. So we said, let's make an abstraction, and we created a new object called dashboard. Perhaps in the Windows time we have called it menu, because conceptually it's that, a menu. So when we have an entry point to this line, we need a menu, a dashboard that basically includes options for the most relevant entry points, and then some way to tell them, well, I like to see these options as a list. It's simply that, beyond some properties that Silvia Mekemian will explain you tomorrow. But basically that is the concept. This is the application that some GeneXus user apply to make a list. If I want the same options as in Facebook, as a table, it's the same. I include the options, and then I select the button for table. This is Loco Abreu, which is one of the winners of the community that used this with GeneXus. So we started from something we didn't know, something that was not done with GeneXus. We made an abstraction, and we must have a conceptual test. Here we have the same tabs, the dashboard, the options, the abstraction. This is an application, once again. It's a dashboard using tabs to be shown on the screen. And going on with the interaction units in a mobile application, after entering we find several screens, several interaction units. Some of them show lists of different types with different controls, different type of visualization. The GeneXus users could abstract from this list what would be an style grid. This list have forms of ordering, grouping, arranging the objects, but in interaction units we didn't have lists. We had screens, forms for data entry, or just interaction units for visualizing some data with the simple use of a button. And we tried, on the basis of those screens, to make an abstraction and a separation of concern, that is, separating the responsibilities. On screens in general, what we have is a layout that basically is the screen where the data appear. Some of this data or what would be a grid of GeneXus, or some that are isolated or spread. And when we find general lists, we find the search button, which is the same as in Google. That is the box, the text box, to insert, to enter the search term. And you have seen in Google that there is a way of doing an advanced search, that is a search with more structured things, as when I try to find a movie and I wish the details of that movie. An advanced search where I could search about the range of ages, whether that film is for kids or not. And also we have actions that will provide interaction to our screen. We can send it to the server or create an agenda, and these provide applications with interactivity. All these elements that, as you can see, are different parts of the same things, we call it panel. A panel for smart devices. A panel that will have a layout, the search base, and different ways of grouping. One of those screens in the panel area, when I focus only on how the data will be grouped, I'll do it in this way. I will have a way of taking the data from one screen and place them on a grid or isolated. The first component, that is the layout, contains data, forms of groupings, and three elements as text or images that are not associated to any data, and actions that will provide for interactivity. These are some applications I found where the layout actions and the form of visualizing were used in different screens. At the functionality level, we are rather pleased on the evolution too, as far as positioning actions with the device, interactivity, different forms of visualizing lists are concerned. Actions are the way of providing interactivity to do something. For instance, in the event application, we have the button. On the layout, we have a way of selecting actions, and then each one of those actions has an associated event where I can schedule. Here you have in the mid-bar schedule options. Here we have three options. You can say that there are three actions here, and on the program there is only one, but that's because only one is visible. Some of them will appear on the screen, all on different positions according to each device.
If I start taking a look, here we have one dashboard and then one panel, which is a basic unit of interaction. If I start taking a look at the interaction between the different screens in a mobile application, I can see that many times there could be an arrow that comes and goes, and this is mostly the result because many times we have a list I search something, then I select it, and then by default I go to the detail.